Hey lady, I'm so glad you're here. CPR for the soul. Welcome to my first video launch for my channel. Today I am launching this video in honor of my brother Sam, the 25th anniversary of his passing. Before I get started, I would like to say I am not a medical, legal, or mental health professional. Content that I provide on this channel is solely based on my personal experiences and insights that has helped me along the way. So seek guidance from a professional regarding your health, finances, or mental health. Again, thank you for being on my channel today. Today is December 7th, 2025, and December 7th, 2000 is the year that my brother Sam has passed away. I had this whole video idea to, be very, I guess, professional, organized for today. And what I found to help me through the grieving process, one thing I do remember, one thing I do know, grief never goes away. For me, and I've shared this in my video on Facebook, some years are better than others. This year, I can say it's the worst for me this year and how I'm feeling. And some of us know the 9 stages of the grieving process. And I've learned that throughout these 25 years, it has been some years where I'm angry, some years where I'm sad, and then there's years where I'm happy. I don't think I'll ever get to the part of accepting. Or maybe there's some years I'm accepting it and I just don't understand, but I don't ever feel like I'm accepting of it, because then that's when the anger kicks in. But anyway, so today, this is not as organized as I would like for it to be, but I'm being authentic and I just want to talk. I remember the day he passed away and being able to share so many stories and hearing so many stories from his friends has truly helped me get through that time. When I tell you, I believe his friends, his closest friends, his core group of friends, probably lived with me for about a year. And I think that's what we needed to be able to move on. So on December 7th, 1980, Sam Peterson Jr. was born. I was 10 years old when he was born, and my middle brother, he was 8 years old. So it was the 3 of us. And I can tell you, I remember when my mom brought him home and she had this beautiful red quilt that he laid on. And I remember walking into the room and laying my eyes on him, and he just looked like this perfect little baby. He was a preemie. He was 4 pounds. I don't remember the ounces, but I know he was preemie. He was born early. And he just looked like this perfect little baby. And you would have thought at 10 years old, I gave birth to him, because I remember wanting to help my mom take care of him, changing his diaper, feeding him. Both my middle brother and I wanted to make sure that we took care of our little brother. And he was just, I don't know, from the time I laid eyes on him, he just was really special. And the 3 of us was close. We, played together, but then again, me being the big sis, there was times where I didn't want to play with either one of my brothers, but I just remember I knew I was that sister that you can mess with me, but don't mess with my brothers. That's just how I am in general. Don't mess with the people that I care about. But anyway, like I said, you would have thought at 10 years old, I gave birth to this little boy, because I just felt like he was mine. He was special. So throughout, his childhood, as I said, being close, but when I turned 18 years old, graduated high school, I moved to New York to, I guess, to start my life. but we'll get to that story later in the channel. But to start my life, 18 years old, I moved to New York, thought I was an adult. And I do remember, when I did have to move back home, Sam and I having the conversation about him, missing me, wish I didn't leave, because 2 years after I moved to New York, my other brother, he joined the military. So Sam felt like he was alone. So fast forward to 91. So from 88 to 91, I was living in New York. But fast forward to 91, I got pregnant with my older son and ended up moving back home. Sam was there. And I just remember him being such a great uncle. I remember when he laid eyes on my son, it reminded me of how I was with him. He now stepped in, he wanted to help, and that was his buddy, and he wanted to make sure his nephew was taken care of. He now was, it was like we picked up where we left off. He was attached to my hip. The connection was my son, and he was just such a great uncle to him. So at this time, he is in middle school, and then going into like high school. And then when I moved back home in I'm getting it wrong. So he was, oh wow, my brain, menopause. You'll hear about that story too. So in 91, moved back home, having, my son, I meet my husband, we get married. My husband at that time, we get married, and he gets stationed to Langley Air Force Base. So I remember Sam, saying that summer he wanted to spend the summer with me in Virginia. And I remember talking to my parents and saying, hey, let Sam come stay with me for the summer. He could help me. I'm, moving to Virginia. I'm an early mom, first time mom. I could really use the help. So Sam came and spent the summer with us. And it was a really good summer. Again, I'm 10 years older than him. So although I was his sister, that mom mentality kicked in because, I'm a new mom. And, just sharing this story where I just remember it was me, Sam, pushing my son in the cart, and my husband at the time, we're walking, just hanging out. And I just remember, Sam, being an ornery kid, just kept spitting, and I kept telling him to stop, and he wouldn't listen. Sam, stop spitting in the street. So I just remember turning around and popping him, and the look on his face was like, wow, my sister has never done that. And the mom instinct, I guess, kicked in. But again, just sharing that experience. I also remember that same summer, Krispy Kreme donuts. He loved going to Krispy Kreme donuts with my husband. They would sit in the parking lot and wait for the red special light to come up, and then they would run in and they would get their donuts. It was just a really fun summer. We, went to the beach, and I have a beautiful picture of Sam and my son, standing on the beach, and Sam, teaching him to not be afraid to walk in the water. It was just a really good summer. So fast forward to me having to move back home, my family and I having to move back home to live with my parents. And Sam now is in high school. And I just remember I loved watching him play basketball. This right here is his high school warm-up suit. I still have it to this very day. And he played basketball and he played football, but I just loved watching him play basketball. He had this flawless three-pointer that he would do in the corner. And his really close friend, they call each other, they say they're brothers. I just loved the way they played together. It was just like they knew where each other was on the court without even knowing. And they just, gelled so well together. So watching him play basketball was my absolute favorite sport to watch him play. So I was at every game. I was, or did the best I could to be at every game and every football game. And I remember I remember there was one game where we were playing Rancocas Valley High School. It was me, the kids was there, and his girlfriend at the time. We were there. And I remember there was a kid who pushed Sam to the ground. You could literally, or at least I heard it, his head hit the ground. It took all of those fans to pull me from coming on that court because I was ready to kick somebody's kid butt because of what they did to my brother. I was just very protective of my brothers. But thinking about it now, it was just a funny story to tell because I didn't make it onto the court. But anyway, so fast forward, it's now time for him to graduate high school. And, we're there at the graduation. And I remember Sam telling me the story that he said, when they were getting ready to walk and announce his name, they said, plug your ears because the only person you're going to hear in the crowd is my sister. She is my biggest fan. And I remember when the kids that were standing in line with him saying to me, he was right. You were the only person that we heard in the entire crowd. Mind you, this was outside on a football field. Just was very, proud of him. Fast forward, he goes to college, and I just remember the year that he passed, November 7th, my middle brother was in the hospital November 7th. He was stationed in Delaware, in the state that Sam was at school. And we were all at the hospital to make sure, that he was okay. But I just remember seeing Sam sitting in the hospital sleeping. And I just took it as, he's tired, he's, in college, doing college things, partying, hanging out. And I just remember, thinking like, it's just a kid in college. And we were making plans to, pick him up for Thanksgiving. And because Thanksgiving was his favorite holiday, and I don't blame him because my mom is an amazing cook. So I remember talking to him about picking him up for Thanksgiving. And so I did. I picked him up from Thanksgiving. And I remember driving back, and we were at a convenience store in Pemberton. And the guy behind the counter was saying, he remembered him from high school, watching him play basketball. And he was telling Sam he was like his number one fan, always watched him to see him play. And Sam put his arms around me and said, no, this is my number one fan. My sister's my number one fan. And that made me feel so special because he's right. I was his number one fan. And so, again, just another story. And so we got through that holiday. And we were, again, talking about plans to pick him up for Christmas, the Christmas break to come home for Christmas. So December 7th of 2000, I remember getting a phone call from my mom. And I thought she told me, we have to rush to the hospital. We don't know if Sam's going to make it. But fast forward, she said she actually had told me on the phone that he had passed and we need to get to the hospital. I just think my brain did not want to rationalize that he was gone. And I just remember grabbing the kids and grabbing some clothes, and my husband at the time getting in the car, driving to Delaware to make sure he was good. And I remember just looking up into the clouds the whole entire ride, saying, Sam, just hold on, I'm coming. Just hold on, I'm on my way. Please just hold on. And when we got there, his girlfriend at the time and my sister-in-law came up to me and they said, he's gone. There were so many people in that hospital waiting room, so many people from the school. And I remember my son, he was 9 at the time. I remember my son sitting in the waiting room looking at me saying, why? How do you tell a 9-year-old that the one person he looked up to is no longer here. And I remember walking down the hallway with my parents to identify his body. I will never forget seeing him laying there. I couldn't do anything. And then fast forward, my brother and I are, I remember sitting there making the plan saying, we never thought we would be making plans to bury our brother. Just the way life goes, we thought it would always be, us having to plan our parents first, not our 20-year-old brother. Unexpectedly. But he is forever my angel. The funeral director gave us angel pins, and as I mentioned in a previous video, I have been wearing this angel pin every day to feel close, to feel connected to him. And I remember when I say so many people, he has touched so many people's lives at that time. I just remember we did a service for him in Delaware, and it was in this little small church, and they had to open up another section of the church because there were so many people there. I remember the choir director came up to me and was saying how he just shed so, it was that smile. He shared so much with so many people, and just to hear the amount of stories that were shared about him was very helpful. The choir director said, they were practicing and rehearsing for a choir concert, and it was some Christian music that they were playing. And she said she remembers Sam sitting there watching their rehearsal, and she said there was just like this glow around him. I was just like, wow, that was like my first sign to say that he was really an angel. And I remember when, I know this sounds all over the place, but how he passed was he was playing basketball, his favorite sport. And he went to make his famous, or what I call his famous 3-point shot, and he collapsed on the court. And one of his friends had actually recorded that game and gave it to me. I watched it on a VCR tape, and I could see on the VCR tape that he was not himself, not the person that I'm used to seeing on the court. He just looked very tired, very tired. And I'm watching and him going up and down the court, and then right before he collapsed, he goes into the corner where he makes his famous 3-point shot. The ball goes up, and the video died. And I remember his friend apologizing to me because the video just stopped. And I said to him, I wasn't meant to see it. It wasn't meant for me to see that happen to him on video. That was one of the hardest moments of my life. I was 30 years old when that happened. That was the first time I've experienced death so close to home. And it was hard. I questioned life. I questioned my life. I questioned decisions in my life, because that was a prime example. 1 minute you're here, 1 minute you're gone. 20 years old, thinking that he's going to live forever, but realizing he's my angel. And so many things transpired, and I thought I got through all of the hurt from losing him, but realizing as time went on, I did I never did. It just got easier to deal with it. Sam Peterson Jr. really was an angel. He was my angel. I still talk to him every day. There's moments where he reminds me that he's still here, especially the cardinal sitting in my tree the other day. A couple of days ago, I'm laying in my room, I'm sleeping, and in the middle of the night, and it's just me and my dog here in the middle of the night, my bedroom light is on. I wake up to go to the bathroom, and my bedroom light is on. Now, my bedroom light can only be turned on with my remote. I'm in bed, and my remote to turn on that light is on my dresser, which is probably about 10 steps from my bed. And I'm like, okay, Sam, I know you're here. It's just little things like that reminds me that he's here. As I mentioned before in the video, talking about him, telling stories, sharing stories has helped me. This channel is going to help me because there's times where I want to talk about him all day, every day, but nobody will understand the relationship that I had with him, other than my mom, because I can only imagine what it's like to lose a child like that. But I could talk about him all day, every day. I miss his smile. I miss the little jokes he used to do with me, teasing me. I miss my football team playing against his football team. He was a Giants fan. I'm a 49ers fan, and I remember, the camaraderie there. I miss with Y2K was coming around. I remember the New Year's when he scared the crap out of me. It was me, my mom, and Sam at the time, and my son, and it was just us celebrating New Year's. And I remember this whole scare about Y2K and how the lights was going to turn out and the world was going to end. And I remember when we were counting down to New Year's, and as soon as we said Happy New Year, Sam turned off the lights and I freaked out. And I still remember him laughing and running up and down the hallway making fun of me because I was so scared. I miss that. I do. I really miss that. I even miss him making fun of me because I can't remember rap songs. I remember rap songs, like a song could come out in 1991 and I wouldn't get it till 1993 what they're saying. And I remember him teasing me about that. But more than anything, I just miss him, especially now, with going through the loss of, estrangement loss of my own child, not wanting to have a relationship with me. It just makes this year even harder. But one thing I have found in my journey is I have to give myself grace. I have to be at peace with the fact that I'll never see him again. I have to be at peace with, I did the best that I could for him. He knew that I loved him. And if I could do anything to have him here, he knew that I would have done that. So I just have to give myself grace and just understand that it is a part of life. It's something that we may not want to accept, but God has blessed me to have him in my life for as long as he wanted me to have him in my life. God has blessed me to have my child in my life for as long as he wanted me to have him in my life. They're not mine. We are all God's children, and it's his decision to say when it's time for them to leave, and we just have to accept it. I remember saying to one of my friends that if we have faith in God, we should not fear. And I do have faith, and I'm truly, truly blessed to say that I was Sam Peterson Jr.'s sister, and I know he is always with me. So thank you for listening to this video. If anything resonated with you in this video, please comment as to what has resonated with you. If you would like to hear more on how or some insights on how I've gotten through the grieving process, next week video, I will dive a little bit more into some small insights. But today I just wanted to talk, and I just wanted to share Sam Peterson and my love for my baby brother. Thank you.